Hi, I'm Marcia with Cotton Street Commons, and I'm really happy you've joined me today. This is a video for part of the Christmas in July pattern parade, and it's a group of designers that have gotten together to do a blog hop period. We all have special Christmas projects and patterns and tips and techniques. So it may be the middle of July, but it's beginning to look a lot like Christmas around here. Today we're going to do a collage project. So with a collage project, I like Steam-A-Seam 2. It's heavier and it holds the pieces on better, especially in wall hangings where I may not have quilting or stitching to hold every piece down. I've got a little piece here and a couple of hints when using it. It took me a long time to figure out the right side and the wrong side. At least with Steam-A-Seam 2, the right side has a little graph pattern, and by that means the side I'm going to trace on. Another way to quickly tell is, well, let's see, to kind of cut the piece open just a little bit, and this side is all sticky, and again that's my graph paper side, and this side is very loose. So I'm tracing to the graph side, then I will be peeling, and I am going to iron it to the wrong side of the fabric. This is the little leaf that I'm going to be tracing today. As you can see, I've got writing on it. I usually put a big X so I know that's the right side because I want to trace the wrong side. So when I trace, I like to use a little Sharpie fine point. Any Sharpie, sometimes in desperation, I've got a big thick colored Sharpie marker. But the Sharpie doesn't get on my fingers like an ink pen will. So again, I'm going to place the template with the wrong side up, and I'm placing it on my graph paper. Put my glasses on, and then I'm just going to quickly trace around. I don't need a super dark. It's okay if a little pieces are missing because I cut it out freehand, and it all works in this application. I'm going to continue to trace all of my little holly leaves, and then I will come back and show you the next step. Okay, I've determined approximately I'm using 5 green fabrics for my holly leaves, and I'm going to start with about 10 of each color as I work around my wreath. We might have to add more or not use as many, but I have taken and drawn 50 something onto my Steam-A-Seam. I'm going to take my paper scissors out, and I've kind of made it easy this time. I'm just going to cut off a row. And in this case, my first piece of fabric I'm going to use is a dark green, and it looks like I can run the row this way. I'm going to trim back a little extra. You do not want to trim exactly on the line yet. That is the critical thing. You need to leave at least a 1/4 edge border around the outside. And now I fit on my piece. So again, let's transfer over to my wool pressing mat. Wrong side up again. Let's get this over here. wrong side up again. I'm going to give it a quick press just to get some of those excess lines out. Excuse me. We're going to go ahead and peel. It's a real easy peel at this point in time. I am laying down on my green fabric, and I'm just going to kind of press it quickly with my hand. I've got a little air bubble. That's why I like to do these things live, so you can see what I run into when doing it. And now I'm going to give it a good pressing. I love the little iron, a little mini iron. It works super well. The question is, how long do you press for? And the instructions will tell you to hold it about 30 to 40 seconds. I like to move my iron around a little bit so I don't get any scorching. But I can hold it in place if I need to, nice and slow. There's a way to determine if we've put enough heat on it in the next step. This iron's shooting steam, so there's no problem with steam. Now, here we are. I'm going to trim off my excess fabric. Fabric scissors for this. And now you can see, here are all my patterns. I'm going to go ahead, and for me, with fabric scissors at this point in time, it's a little easier. Let's see. I'm going to cut and separate just a couple of them. So now I've got my little holly leaf individually cut. As you can see, there are still spaces all the way around it. And when I trim now, I'm going to go back and cut exactly on that line. By doing this method in this order, you prevent fraying of the fabric and you get a nice clean cut line. Okay, here I've got it. It's all nice and neat. Now to take that backing off, I'm going to make a little tear. I'll go from the paper side, and you can just hear that paper rip just carefully. I find an edge, hard to show you, and it just peels right off, and I'm not fighting to figure out where it is. Now, if this paper doesn't peel off easily, it means that you didn't press down and adhere that adhesive well enough. So if you start to peel and it doesn't want to come off, go back to your iron and press it again. I'm going to go and get all of my leaves in all of my colors, cut out, and then we'll come back to show you the next step. I work with fusibles a lot, and a lot of times my iron can get really gummed up and messy. So I have bought all kinds of products, but probably my favorite one is a used dryer sheet. It's already been through, so I've already used it for that purpose, and I can just literally come back and clean on my iron. My iron was clean now, so you can't see what happens. The smoking is okay. That's just the stuff burning off. But a used dryer sheet is great for cleaning up your iron. So I got all my leaves cut out. Let me show you. Here they are. I still got the paper on them right now because I'm just doing a quick check, because for this project, I'm going to do something a little special. But let me show you what I'm doing. Right now, I'm just kind of laying them on just to see if I'm going to get the look I'm going for. Paper's on, nothing's settled, and I think I'm going to have enough. I like the size. Now's the time, if you don't like the size, to trim it down and everything. Sewing machine, and I'm going to quilt it. It's a different technique I haven't tried before. Again, this whole project is just something I am throwing together. I like to learn new techniques and share them with you. So after this is quilted, we will come back and finish showing you how to do your collage applique. Okay, I have finished some machine quilting and I've got it all trimmed up. This size is an 18 by 18 inch square. That's just where I went with, because that way I could use a fat quarter for my background. And it's time now to put on our applique leaves. This is a different method than I've done before. I explained that. This time I wanted to quilt ahead of time. I could also put the binding on and wash it if I wanted that really crinkly background look. And then my applique leaf or holly leaves are going to go on top of that. They are not going to be stitched down in any way. They're just going to sit there. And because I'm using the Steam-A-Seam 2, it's going to seal them and hold them well enough for a wall hanging. If this were a quilt, I couldn't do it that way. But because I'm just doing a wall hanging, I just wanted a different look. Again, this is all, I'm winging it, which is kind of fun. And that's machine quilting, which I don't do, even though I have a foot for it. But I machine quilted, and I'm really excited about it. So now let's go down and let's through the next step of how we do our appliquing. Okay, now we're set up and going. I did circles every 2 inches. I started with a 2-inch circle and I worked out. And I decided that I wanted to start my design about on my 12-inch circle, which is approximately 6 inches out from the middle. So again, you can mark the middle, so you don't have to do this design, but I'm starting again about 6 inches out will be the center of my leaf. So I'm just going around with my little friction pen and making a couple of marks so I can see what's going on. As you can see over here, I've got 5 different groups of leaves. Each group is a different color, and approximately 10 to 12 per pile. As we go along, we'll see if we need more or less. So remember, at this point in time, we haven't peeled our backing, which is important up to this point in time. But now, as we place each leaf, we want to peel the backing. We know that they are repositionable, which is another really nice thing about the Steam-A-Seam 2, and I can move them around, but once I put them down there, they'll hold in place until I need to move them. Nothing is final until it gets pressed down. So, and the reason I learned the hard way is I've laid out whole designs and then really liked what I did, but had not taken off the paper, so I had to come back and pull the whole design up, take all the paper off, and start again. This is the one we removed the paper from earlier that we know about, and as you can see, I'm going to try and do this design upside down. These words are directional, so this is my top and this is my bottom, and I've marked my line where I want to start, and I'm going to just put one of these leaves on there, and it's pretty much centered over the line. Let me show you again how to take the paper off, an easy way. I mean, I can sit here and I can peel and I can pull and I can take a pin and I can stick it in all kinds of ways, but I have found if I just make a little tear in the paper, you can see it, you can hear it, and then I just fold back and take a hold. It peels away that easily, and I'm ready to place this down. I'm starting with my dark color first. It always provides a background. I may have a couple more that come popping out as I go along. And I am going to stop, peel, and I'll show you real quickly, but I'm not going to place them down. I'm just going to equally place them around. I want this wreath to be very symmetrical. Okay, I want to show you on my first layer. I have just barely set them on there. They're all peeled. Let me give you one of those. You can see, I can shake it. They're not going anywhere, but I can move them any way I want. So now, because nature isn't orderly and neat, I'm gonna go around and I'm just gonna change the angles slightly on this group. And I may come back and adjust. And sometimes when we get all our layers on, we may decide we need something more dark underneath. So you can lift up and put under. Let me get a few more layers on now. Okay, I've got my second layer barely going on, but because again of that strong stuff, I don't have to press down very hard to get them into place. As you can see, I want you to look real closely. They're starting to go all odd directions in and out and everything. That's why that first row is so critical. And while they're angled, I try and center them around the line so I know how far out or in to go from everything. Again, I'll still be moving these. Let me get the rest of the layers on and then we'll start to play some more. Okay, I've been working on my layers again, and I don't know if I pointed out, but my 5 fabrics that I've used were all different shades of green. The contrast in the greens works really well. I've got the first 3 layers on, and I really like this piece. So I'm now deciding that I need to tuck under my lighter color to give me some more contrast. So as you can see, this is a lighter color, and I am literally lifting up my leaves and placing it under. And I'm going to go around and do that because my next color I want to use is this, and it shows off better if it's sitting down on top of some of those lighter ones. Again, the leaves all go different directions. So I'm fortunate, I'm working with a glass table, which means I can peel them all and put them on as I go. But you have to kind of look back. Don't be afraid to lift up the petals, or the leaves, sorry. And tuck underneath wherever you think you want that light color. And just keep going like that. So I'm gonna finish up now. I keep saying that, but this time I'm really going to finish, and then we'll be back to see the final wreath. So as I've explained several times, I'm kind of winging this. I had a general idea of what I wanted to do before I started, and as I go along, I make changes. That's kind of how I design a quilt. Also, I usually just do some scratching with a pen and paper, and then I start to put it together, and as it goes along, it has a tendency to morph, I guess it'd be the thing. So remember, here we are. I added one more piece of a darker green because I really wanted to get it out. Now what I've decided to do, and I don't know if you can see it in the background, but I have a wreath up here. What's really trendy right now are just strands of ribbons hanging down off a plain wreath. So I decided I wanted to figure out a way to do that with fabric. I don't have the ribbons, and I don't have a store that I can go get some right now. Plus, I wanted to use the fabrics, in other words, use up what we have and make it work. And we are going to show you my process to do this. Let's cross our fingers it works. First of all, I'm going to pick some different fabrics, but I wanted to get a measurement going. Here's the top of my wreath, and I think I know how I'm going to adhere them, but I want it there, and I want to give myself enough room. So it looks like I've gone about 14 inches on my piece. Actually, I could tell you exactly. 14 inches exactly. And I'm going to do 1/2 inch strips. And I'm not sure how many I have. So I've cut me a couple of pieces of fabric, 3.5 inch wide by 14. Now, I'm gonna move over here. Oh, to the pressing mat. I want to make sure and give my little fabrics a quick press. And I can see that I have a little bit of gumminess on my iron. We talked about that. So I'm going to run and grab a dryer sheet and clean that off real quickly. Okay, I'm back. I've got my used dryer sheet, and just that quickly, very quickly, all that gumminess is gone. And now my iron's going to go really smooth. So I'm going to come back. And these lines I really want to be crisp, so I'm going to put some more starch on it. And let me starch up this. All right, a little trickier. I have cut myself, and this time I used Steam-A-Seam 2 Light. We talked about Steam-A-Seam 2, and we've talked about that all day, but I'm going to do fabric on both sides, and I want it to have a little bit thinner, more ribbon-like texture. So I have cut me a piece that's approximately the same size as my fabric. I'm going to peel off one side. And because my glue is going to be down, I've got my pressing sheet underneath. I'm going to turn this so we have a better look. There we go. I'm coming back. I'm going to press this sheet on. Now I'm going to peel off this side. As you can see, it's stuck a little bit here. I just bring my finger, in this case it's hot, so I'm going to bring my dryer sheet. And I'm just going to take that excess glue right off before I go any further. So now I'm looking to peel. Same principle. I'm going to give it a big tear. That way you can see it. And it comes off super easy. Now I've got my right side down. This side is really sticky, and I am going to put my second fabric piece right on top. Right now I've got my glue facing up, so I'm going to switch my mat, and I'm going to press. This time my right side is facing up, wrong side is pressing against the glue, or the Steam-A-Seam 2 Light. I'm going to get it pressed really, really well. And I have just made some ribbon, double-sided. Back over here to the cutting board. Sorry about that. Let's move this out of the way. I'm going to get some nice clean cuts. And I think I want to try 1/2-inch ribbon. It might be a little big. I'm looking at it right now to see. But I'm going to cut my first one at 1/2 inch. I know I don't want any bigger. So let's get our quilt back over for a minute and kind of see how that's going to start to hang. I'm probably going to take it back and go to 3/8. I might stay at, I'm going to take it back, and I probably might go to 3/8. I might do some at a 1/2 inch, but I'm going to pick a few colors and cut me a few strips, and then we will come back. I'm going to do the same technique to make this double-sided fabric nice and loose, and see how floppy it is, and then we will put it all together. Okay, I'm back. I've got all my strips cut. I used 6 different fabrics. So I've already put together one of my sections, which is right here. I cut 2 each of the 6 fabrics, so there are 12 in here. And I literally just tied it with a piece of ribbon. I've left me some at the top to figure out what I'm going to do with it. And once it goes on the wreath, I'll come back and trim. So let me show you quickly. Okay, I cut some big ones, and I'm just trying to spread the colors around. So I'm gonna start gathering. If you've never tied a ribbon, I'm kind of holding them apart like that so that they'll have some spacing to them. And again, I'm just mixing colors. So I'm going black and then some red. I'm trying to put the thinner pieces up on top. Let's see. It's kind of hard. Let me turn it towards you and let's see if we can do it backwards. So again, I'm just kind of getting something I like. I'm going to wire them. I just have some little floral wire. This is actually the wire I've been using for mask making, if anyone's making a mask. And I'm going to come down around 1.5 inches or so. And I am just, let's see, where's my front? That's my front. Takes a special skill to learn to do things backwards. So again, I'm going to pull really hard. Get it all in there. And I'm going to twist around. Now I've got 2 sections, a lot of ribbons hanging down. So let's see what it looks like with our wreath. Again, I've been tossing this wreath all around, and none of these pieces are ironed down, which is the great part. So I'm going to come up here, and I'm just going to kind of see how that looks. Actually, I really like it. So now I just need to figure out how I'm going to put my 2 pieces together at the top. I think I'm going to wire them. Have a little spread here. I'm going to trim these back, and then I'm going to trim the bottoms with some angles. The last thing we'll have to do is attach it, but I'm going to bind this quilt before we attach it. I've got a couple more steps to go. I'm going to spread those apart a little bit. I'm going to wire it again. I'll probably put another piece of little fabric there because I still have a few pieces uncut. I'm going to take one more look to make sure that all my green leaves are where I want them to be. And now I'm going to press them down. I'm back on my wool pressing mat. I like my positions for all of my leaves. So now, got my iron, and I am just going to press it down. I'm not going to rub my iron back and forth at first because I might catch some of the edges. So that's an important thing to remember. Right now, I'm pressing straight up and down. Let me come down here on this side. And I'm trying to set those pieces in place. Again, I want to make sure and cover all of the edges very carefully. I'm going to finish pressing all the way around. I'm going to come back again. Once I think I have all my edges on, then I can put a little more heat and a little more wiggle room like this. But you want to make sure all your points and edges are firmly down, or they could catch up and raise up. So that's kind of a little important step right there. One more test is you can kind of rub your hand against it like this. If you can see, I'm rubbing my hand back and forth, and no edges whatsoever are coming up on my hands. So I know this is down good. All right, I'm gonna go put a binding on this real quickly. I'm gonna finish up my ribbons, get one more wrapping around the top and do the trimming. And when I come back, we're going to put the ribbons onto our quilt. It's finally time to finish up our project. Let me show you real quickly. I've got a binding on it now. I used a fun black binding. I've got my ribbons all done. I want you to look very carefully. I found a little selvage and I wrapped that around the top, and all my edges have been trimmed. So to put it on, I'm going to take a giant safety pin and I'm just going to run it through the back and run it through the quilt for now. Again, this is a wall hanging, so none of that's going to show, and it's temporary in case I want to change something out along the way. Okay, not very pretty from the back, but for now it works. I probably could come back and hand stitch it down, which I would probably suggest, but again, I'm not sure I'm completely finished. I'm finished for now, so let me show you the finished product. Isn't that fun? And it's really easy. As you watched, we have no pattern other than a holly leaf. Thanks for joining me. This will be over on YouTube, so you can access it anytime. And have a great day. Thanks for stopping by at Cotton Street Commons.